Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That simple truth holds the key to unlocking willpower most people never tap into. Why is it that today, with more comforts and conveniences than ever before, self-mastery feels so elusive? Stoicism offers a surprising answer. True discipline isn't about forcing yourself, it's about rewiring how you perceive challenges. Through 38 timeless insights, we'll explore how to build unshakable resilience, razor-sharp focus, and emotional control that turns obstacles into fuel. This isn't just philosophy, it's a battle-tested system for transforming your daily struggles into stepping stones toward mastery. Ever sat in bumper-to-bumper traffic, watching the clock tick as frustration builds? Here's the thing: the cars in front of you won't move faster because you're angry, but your reaction, that's entirely yours to command. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's sharpest minds, framed this as the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to us, like our judgments and efforts, while others traffic, whether other people's actions simply aren't. He put it bluntly: make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Willpower thrives when we stop wasting energy on what we can't change and redirect it toward what we can. Think about a stressor in your life right now. Is it something within your influence, like your preparation for a meeting, or outside it, like whether your boss approves? Scribble it down, then draw a line. Label one side my actions, the other external outcomes. That split isn't just philosophical, it's a practical tool. Every time you catch yourself agonizing over the uncontrollable, you're draining willpower you could have spent mastering yourself. This isn't passive acceptance, it's strategic focus. The driver who white-knuckles the wheel in rage arrives no sooner, but the one who listens to an audiobook or plans their day turns the same delay into progress. Control isn't about bending the world to your will, it's about choosing where to place your attention. So next time frustration bubbles up, ask, is this mine to fix? If not, let it pass like clouds. Your willpower is too valuable to spend on storms you can't stop. The ancient Stoics had a radical approach to handling life's uncertainties, one that flips modern comfort seeking on its head. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Instead of dreading hardship or pretending adversity won't strike, he advised visualizing the worst-case scenarios in vivid detail. Picture this: you're about to launch a business. Rather than just fantasizing about success, you ask, what if sales are slow? What if a key supplier drops out? By mentally rehearsing setbacks, you strip them of their power to shock you and uncover solutions before disaster hits. Here's where most of us go wrong today. We treat discomfort like a glitch instead of part of the process. Seneca put it bluntly: fire tests gold, adversity tests the strong. He wasn't glorifying suffering, he was sharpening readiness. Think of an athlete who trains in rain or wind. When race day brings storms, they're prepared while others panic. That's the difference between avoidance and mastery. Try this tonight. Pick a goal you care about, a presentation, a fitness milestone, a tough conversation, and spend 5 minutes imagining every possible hiccup. Not to dwell on fear, but to build contingency plans. When you rehearse resilience, setbacks become speed bumps, not roadblocks. The Stoics weren't pessimists, they were tactical realists who knew one truth: the mind that faces the storm is the one that learns to sail through it. There's a rebellious beauty in embracing what life throws at you, not just enduring it but loving it. The Stoics called this Amaphati, Latin for love of fate. Nietzsche later borrowed the idea, but it was Marcus Aurelius who lived it during one of Rome's darkest hours. While a plague ravaged his empire and political backstabbing surrounded him, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Imagine ruling an empire crumbling under disease and chaos, yet seeing each obstacle as raw material for growth. Now compare that to how most of us react when life veers off script. Traffic ruins our morning, a project fails, plans collapse, our instinct, fight it, resent it, complain. But resistance magnifies suffering. What if, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you asked, "How can this serve me?" The cancelled flight becomes time to read. The failed product launch reveals a flawed assumption worth fixing. Marcus didn't just survive the plague, he used it to refine his leadership. Writing, "So you were born to feel nice." Instead of doing things and experiencing them, here's the exercise. Grab a notebook and pick one struggle you're facing right now. A strained relationship, a financial pinch, a rejected idea. Now flip it. How could this very problem be your training ground? Maybe the tension teaches patience, the tight budget sparks creativity, the rejection redirects you to something better. Amaphati isn't about blind optimism. It's about mining gold from the dirt life shovels your way. Start small today. When something irritates you, whisper, "This too is for me." Watch how your willpower grows when setbacks stop being enemies and start being allies. Here's a tweet that just popped up on your screen. Your coworker shared that project without crediting you. Total sabotage. Your pulse spikes, anger flares, but wait, is that actually true or just the story your mind instantly created? Epictetus called this moment the discipline of assent, that critical split second between receiving an impression and believing it. His advice: don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, "Hold on a minute, let me see who you are and what you represent." Social media feeds thrive on knee-jerk reactions, turning half-truths into rage clicks. But Stoic wisdom flips the script. Every piece of information is just raw data until you choose how to interpret it. That passive-aggressive email, maybe it's hostility, or maybe your colleague's toddler kept them up all night. The key isn't ignoring reality. It's refusing to let emotions hijack your judgment before you've examined the evidence. Here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Become a detective of your own thoughts. When a strong impression hits, whether it's outrage at a headline or insecurity from a sideways glance, press pause. Ask 3 questions. Is this fact or assumption? What evidence contradicts it? What would calm, detached me think? The goal isn't to suppress reactions, but to upgrade them from automatic to intentional. Like training a muscle, each pause strengthens your ability to respond, not just react. By day's end, you'll notice something profound. The world feels less chaotic when you're no longer mistaking every mental spark for a fire. Modern life has conditioned us to flee from discomfort at all costs. Smart thermostats, endless snacks, pain-free everything. But the Stoics recognized a dangerous paradox. Chasing constant ease weakens the very resilience we need to thrive. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic philosopher who trained Epictetus, put it plainly: how can a person become brave if they only seek comfort? How can they learn self-control when surrounded by luxury? His answer: voluntary discomfort, deliberate acts of toughening the mind like a blacksmith tempers steel. Think of it as mental cross-training. When you choose the stairs over the elevator or swap scrolling for 10 minutes of morning stillness, you're not punishing yourself, you're rehearsing for life's inevitable hardships. Seneca slept on hard floors despite his wealth. Cotto wore threadbare robes in Rome's Senate. These weren't displays of austerity, but strategic reminders: I am tougher than my circumstances. Here's the twist evolution never prepared us for. Comfort is now the default. Our ancestors had no choice but to endure cold, hunger, and fatigue. But today, avoiding discomfort has become so effortless that we've lost the natural conditioning of resilience. The solution: prescribe yourself small doses of challenge like medicine. Start with something simple but visceral, a 30-second cold shower, skipping the snooze button even when you crave sleep, or leaving your phone behind during a lunch break. The goal isn't suffering, it's rewiring your brain's relationship with discomfort. This week, pick one voluntary hardship with clear purpose. If public speaking terrifies you, record a practice video. If impatience is your weak spot, stand in the longest supermarket line. Each time you willingly step into difficulty, you prove to yourself, I can handle more than I think. Because true willpower isn't found in endless comfort, it's forged in the fire of chosen struggle. Marcus Aurelius had a peculiar habit. When stress threatened to overwhelm him, he'd zoom out. Not metaphorically, but cosmically. In his private journals, he'd write things like, think of the vastness of time and space, how your life is but a speck. This wasn't poetic musing, it was a deliberate mental exercise he called the view from above. Picture yourself rising high above Earth until cities shrink to dots, oceans become thin blue lines, and your worries, the rude comment, the missed deadline vanish into the grand scale of existence. Now fast forward to today, you're fuming because your coffee spilled or obsessing over a 2-word text reply. Those emotions feel all-consuming in the moment, but here's the question Marcus would ask. Will this matter in a month, a year, a century? He'd remind you that empires have risen and crumbled, glaciers have carved continents, and yet here we are, tangled in microscopic dramas we'll barely remember. Try this tonight. Step outside and look at the stars. Not casually, really look. Consider that each pinpoint of light traveled thousands of years just to reach your eyes. Your ancestors stood under these same stars, fretting over their own fleeting troubles, none of which changed the universe's course. Then bring to mind your current frustration, the unfair critique, the financial hiccup. From this cosmic vantage point, does it feel heavier or lighter? The goal isn't to dismiss your struggles, but to contextualize them, that project you're stressed about. It's one thread in humanity's vast tapestry, the embarrassment you're replaying, a blip in geological time. Marcus didn't use this perspective to escape responsibility. He used it to act with clarity instead of panic. When you operate from this elevated view, trivialities fall away, and what remains are only the choices that truly matter. So next time overwhelm creeps in, borrow his lens, rise above, and watch how small the storm looks from the stratosphere. Imagine a tool that costs nothing, requires only minutes a day, yet has the power to sharpen your willpower like a whetstone for the mind. That's what Seneca discovered in his nightly ritual, a practice he called the review of the day. Before sleep, he'd sit with ink and parchment, asking himself pointed questions. Where did my will falter today? Did I act with purpose or react out of habit? What weaknesses did I feed, and what strengths did I neglect? These weren't just diary entries, they were sparring sessions with his own conscience. Fast forward 2,000 years and our evenings look starkly different. Scrolling through bite-sized content, drowning in notifications, we've replaced introspection with distraction. But here's the irony. Seneca's journaling habit wasn't about self-judgment, it was about self-ownership. In one letter, he wrote, "The mind must be called to account daily. How much of the day was given to empty pursuits? How often did you say yes when you meant no?" That nightly reckoning trained his willpower like reps in a gym, each honest reflection strengthening his resolve for tomorrow. You don't need leather-bound notebooks or perfect prose to start. Tonight, try this. Grab any scrap of paper and answer just 3 sentences. One choice today aligned with my goals. One moment tested my discipline. One small way I'll improve tomorrow. That's it. No fluff, no guilt, just conscious awareness. The magic isn't in the length, but the consistency. Like lifting weights for your attention span, daily reflection builds the mental muscle to pause before impulsively reaching for your phone, snapping at a loved one, or abandoning your workout. Here's why this works where motivational speeches fail. Willpower isn't summoned in grand declarations, it's forged in quiet moments of self-honesty. Seneca knew that. His journals weren't filled with flowery inspiration, but raw, tactical adjustments. Today I lost patience with Lucius. Tomorrow I'll listen fully before responding. That's the secret modern productivity hacks miss. Transformation happens not in dramatic overhauls, but in daily micro-corrections. Each entry chiseling away the gap between who you are and who you choose to become. So tonight, power down 15 minutes early. Let the screen's glow give way to the flicker of honest reflection. Your future self will thank you for the reps. Epictetus once observed something startling about human nature. We care more about how we appear than how we actually are. He put it bluntly. It's not what happens to you, but how you think about what happens that disturbs your peace. Fast forward to today, where likes and retweets serve as instant reputation meters. We curate highlight reels while starving our integrity. The Stoic teacher warned, if you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Here's the modern trap. We confuse reputation with character. One is the mask others see, the other is the face you wear when no one's watching. Social media didn't invent this, it just amplified it. Think about the last time you hesitated to post something truthful because it might not get applause, or bit your tongue in a meeting to avoid rocking the boat. That's reputation management. Now ask, when did you last stand firm in a quiet moment of moral choice with zero witnesses? That's character. Epictetus drew a line in the sand. You are not your reputation. You are your choices. Imagine applying that to your digital life. What if you posted what aligned with your values rather than what gained approval? What if you valued private integrity over public admiration? This isn't about rejecting feedback, it's about filtering whose opinions truly matter. Time for a ruthless audit. Grab a pen and circle whose judgment currently shapes your actions. Is it your boss's offhand comment, your follower count, a relative's outdated expectations? Now star the names of those who'd respect you more for staying true when it's hard. That's your compass, because at life's end, as the Stoics reminded us, no one asks how many people liked you. They ask whether you lived in harmony with your own principles. So tomorrow, make one choice where the only audience that matters is the person in the mirror. History remembers Cato the Younger for one defining moment, when Julius Caesar, fresh from conquering Gaul, demanded senators swear loyalty to him. One by one they complied, but Cato, he remained seated in silent defiance. Caesar's men dragged him out, yet his resistance became the spark that fueled Rome's eventual rebellion. Here's what most miss about that story. Cato didn't just face the obstacle of tyranny, he used it. His apparent defeat became the very tool that exposed Caesar's thirst for power. That's the Stoic paradox in action. The obstacle isn't just something to overcome, it's the raw material for your next breakthrough. Marcus Aurelius put it in 4 words that changed lives. The impediment becomes the way. Think about that. The thing blocking your path, the rejection, the failure, the criticism isn't a detour. It's the path itself. Fast forward to today and we've lost this lens. Social media trains us to see obstacles as injustices to lament, not opportunities to leverage. A delayed flight sparks outrage instead of unexpected reading time. A career setback fuels self-pity rather than reinvention. Let's make this practical. Grab a sheet of paper and draw 2 columns. On the left, list a current obstacle, maybe a project setback, a health challenge, or a strained relationship. On the right, answer this. How could this exact situation train a skill I lack? That difficult coworker, a masterclass in patience, the tight budget. A crash course in creativity. Like Cato, you're not ignoring the obstacle, you're recruiting it. This week, pick one hurdle you've been cursing and ask, if this were intentionally placed in my path to teach me something, what would the lesson be? Write the answer where you'll see it daily, because the difference between those who master their lives and those trapped by circumstance isn't luck. It's recognizing that the wall in front of you isn't there to stop you. It's there to show you how badly you want what's on the other side. The ancient Romans kept an unusual artifact in their homes, a skull carved from marble or bone, placed where it would catch the eye during meals and celebrations. Not as decoration, but as a whispered reminder, memento mori, remember you must die. Far from being morbid, this practice was their secret weapon for living with urgency and purpose. Fast forward to today, where we've swapped skulls for screens, burying thoughts of mortality under endless distraction. Yet Seneca cut through the noise with a razor-sharp truth. It's not that we have too little time, but that we waste so much of it. Think about how differently we'd approach our days if we carried that awareness lightly in our pockets. That meeting you're dreading, suddenly trivial when weighed against life's brevity. The passion project you've postponed, far more urgent than tomorrow's inbox. The Stoics weren't fixated on death, they were obsessed with making life count. Marcus Aurelius wrote his journal as if each page might be his last, asking, "Is this the thing I want to be doing when the lights go out?" Here's the modern paradox. In avoiding thoughts of endings, we dilute our beginnings. We stretch lazy mornings into years, delay hard conversations until they're irrelevant, trade grand adventures for the false comfort of someday. But what if you flipped the script? Not with dread, but with clarity. Picture this: every morning you glance at a coin in your palm inscribed with those two Latin words, not to frighten you, but to focus you. Today's petty frustrations lose their grip when held against the vastness of a finite life. Your challenge is simple but profound. Write down one thing you'd start immediately and one you'd stop if you truly internalize that your hours are numbered. Maybe it's finally launching that side hustle or ending the toxic relationship you've tolerated. No grand gestures, just one concrete step toward what matters and one honest release of what doesn't. Because the skull on the Romans' table wasn't there to scare them, it was there to wake them up, and 2,000 years later, its message still rings clear. Don't fear the end, let it remind you to begin. Seneca once sat down to write a letter to his friend Lucilius, frustrated by how little progress he'd made despite constant effort. His conclusion: it's not that we have too little, it's that we cling to too much. The Stoics called this the art of subtraction, a radical idea in our age of endless upgrades. True growth begins not with adding more, but with stripping away. Picture a sculptor standing before a block of marble. Their masterpiece emerges not by piling on clay, but by chiseling away everything that isn't essential. Your willpower works the same way. Modern life, though, operates on the opposite premise. We stack task on top of task, clutter our screens with apps we never use, and mistake busyness for progress. Seneca saw this trap centuries ago. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Yet here we are, drowning in subscriptions, notifications, and half-finished projects, wondering why focus feels impossible. The paradox: more options don't mean more freedom, they mean more distraction. Here's the litmus test. Imagine your mind as a cluttered attic. Every unfinished goal, every trivial obligation, every maybe someday item piles up until there's no space to move. Now grab a mental broom. What 3 things could you remove this week to create room for what truly matters? That group chat draining your energy, the multitasking myth that fractures your attention. The guilt over saying no. Subtraction isn't about loss, it's about creating space for mastery to grow. Start small but ruthless. Tonight, delete one app that nibbles at your focus. Tomorrow, decline one meeting that lacks purpose. Like Seneca pruning his correspondence to preserve depth, you're not cutting away value, you're redirecting it. Because willpower isn't strengthened by doing more things halfway, but by doing fewer things fully. The next time you feel stretched thin, ask not what you can add to cope, but what you can remove to thrive. Epictetus didn't just teach philosophy, he ran a kind of mental gymnasium. Picture the sweat and strain of ancient athletes training for the Olympics, muscles burning as they pushed past limits. Now imagine applying that same rigorous discipline to your mind. That's how the Stoics approached willpower, not as something you muster in the moment, but as a skill forged through daily reps. Epictetus put it bluntly, no man is suddenly either strong or weak. You build endurance by lifting small weights consistently. Fast forward to today, where we've swapped that long-term mindset for quick fixes and instant gratification. We want six-pack abs in 30 days, fluency in a language with an app, and unshakable discipline after reading a single motivational quote. But here's what the Stoics knew. Just as no athlete wins gold by cramming training the night before the race, no one masters their mind through sporadic effort. Progress happens in the grind, the unglamorous mornings when you choose the salad over fast food, the evenings when you open the book instead of streaming another episode. Epictetus' Gymnasium metaphor cuts deeper. Athletes don't just practice when they feel inspired, they show up sore, tired, even unmotivated, because consistency is the price of mastery. Your willpower operates the same way. Every time you resist checking notifications while working, or bite back a complaint when plans change, you're not just making a good choice, you're completing a rep in your mental workout. So here's the challenge. Pick one tiny but non-negotiable daily practice, something so small it feels almost trivial. Maybe it's waking up 5 minutes earlier to sit in silence, or writing 3 sentences of gratitude before bed. The key isn't scale, it's repetition. Like a runner logging miles, rain or shine, you're training your willpower to show up even when motivation doesn't. Because the secret Epictetus revealed isn't about grand gestures, it's about the quiet, relentless accumulation of choices that sculpt a stronger mind. Start with 1 rep today, then another tomorrow. That's how champions and Stoics are made. Ancient Stoic philosophers had a peculiar habit when making plans. They'd always add 2 simple words, fate permitting. Not as empty caveats, but as deliberate mental training in humility. Cleans, the successor to Zeno, put it beautifully. Lead me, Zeus, where you will, for I will follow unflinching. This wasn't passivity, it was a recognition that life's currents often redirect even our best-laid plans. Consider the modern startup world, where founders pour years into business plans only to face unforeseen market shifts or tech disruptions. The ones who survive aren't those who rigidly cling to their original blueprint, but those who adapt while staying aligned with their core purpose. Instagram began as a location check-in app before pivoting to photos. Slack started as a gaming company. Both embraced the reserve clause. This is our direction, fate permitting. There's profound freedom in this mindset. When you attach your self-worth to rigid outcomes, a promotion, a relationship timeline, a societal milestone, you turn life's inevitable detours into personal failures. But when you say, I'll pursue this goal with all my skill while accepting that circumstances may redirect me, you remove the sting of unpredictability. Take a moment to examine your own life. Where are you white-knuckling a specific outcome right now? Maybe it's a job offer you're counting on, or a fitness goal that's become all or nothing. Now try reframing it with Clean's wisdom. I'll work tirelessly toward this while remaining open to better paths that may emerge. That subtle shift doesn't weaken resolve, it strengthens resilience. Because willpower isn't about forcing reality to conform. It's about navigating reality with grace. Tonight, as you jot down tomorrow's goals, add those 2 Stoic words after each one. Not as doubt, but as liberation and acknowledgement that while effort is yours to give, outcomes belong to the universe. Over time, you'll notice something remarkable. the less you demand life follow your script, the more you appreciate the unexpected plot twists that end up serving you best. Marcus Aurelius didn't wake up to blaring alarms or grope for a snooze button. He rose before dawn not out of obligation but with intentionality. His first words weren't complaints about fatigue but reminders to himself. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That deliberate mindset set the tone for his entire day. Contrast that with today's default. Screens flooding our brains with notifications before we've even left the pillow, scrambling our focus before it has a chance to form. The Stoics treated mornings like sacred ground, the undisturbed space where you plant the seeds of the day. Seneca spent his early hours in deep study, writing, "No person hands out their money to passers-by, but to how many do we hand out our lives?" He guarded those initial hours like a fortress, knowing distraction would rush in the moment the gates lowered. Fast forward to now, where we trade that clarity for the dopamine hits of social media scrolls before our feet hit the floor. Here's the pivot point. You don't need a Spartan regimen to reclaim your mornings. Start with just 10 minutes, not for productivity hacks, but for perspective. Keep a book of Stoic wisdom on your nightstand and read one passage as sunlight filters in, not to memorize quotes but to ask, how can I live this today? Epictetus didn't say, "No philosophy," he said, "Practice it." Let those words marinate as you sip your coffee. This week, experiment with one shift. When your alarm sounds, resist the reflex to check your phone. Instead, sit upright, take 5 deliberate breaths, and name one intention for the day, not a task but a quality. Patience during meetings, curiosity in conversations, resilience when obstacles arise. That tiny ritual does what caffeine can't. It aligns your actions with your principles before the world's chaos kicks in. Because how you start your morning doesn't just shape your day, it trains your willpower to choose purpose over passivity, one dawn at a time. Marcus Aurelius carried an extraordinary concept with him through wars and plagues, a mental fortress he called the inner citadel. Picture this: while his physical body endured the chaos of leading Rome, his mind could retreat to an inviolable sanctuary where external turmoil couldn't penetrate. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That wasn't poetic escapism, it was tactical psychology. Fast forward to today, where many of us live like open houses with no locks. Every criticism, algorithm-fueled outrage, or minor inconvenience barges in unchecked. Social media has turned minds into crowded town squares where everyone's shouting and no one's listening. The Stoic Emperor's insight cuts deeper now than ever. Resilience isn't about avoiding storms, it's about building an interior stronghold so solid that no external event can rattle your core. So what are the walls of your citadel made of? Start with boundaries, not just digital ones like screen time limits, but mental ones. Marcus' fortress had 3 key defenses: discernment, what opinions deserve entry; volition, what you choose to act upon; and equanimity, what you release. Test yours by imagining a recent moment when frustration hijacked your peace. Was it because someone crossed a boundary you hadn't defined? Here's how to reinforce your walls. Grab paper and sketch a fortress with 4 towers, labeling each with a principle that guards your peace. Maybe one tower is "I respond, never react." Another, "Only facts, not assumptions." These aren't rigid rules, they're psychological gatekeepers. The goal isn't to isolate yourself from life's friction, but to engage with it on your terms. Tonight, practice retreating into your citadel. Sit in silence and visualize stepping behind those walls, not to hide, but to regroup. Ask, what external chaos am I letting dictate my inner state? Because here's the paradox Marcus discovered. The stronger your inner fortress, the more boldly you can engage with the world outside it, not as a fragile participant, but as an unshakable architect of your own peace. Epictetus observed something curious about human speech. We often mistake volume for value. While walking through Athens' bustling marketplace, he noted how merchants shouted over each other, each trying to outsell their neighbors. His conclusion: we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. The Stoics practiced what they called sparse speech, not silence for its own sake, but words distilled to their essence. Consider how different that is from today's communication landscape. We live in an age of endless podcasts, constant notifications, and meetings that could have been emails. But here's the paradox: the more we talk, the less we're heard. Seneca warned his students, speech that's scattered loses its weight. Every unnecessary word is like adding water to wine. It dilutes the potency of your message. The Stoic approach wasn't about being terse or cold. It was about precision with purpose. Before speaking, they'd filter their words through 3 gates. Is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Imagine applying that to your next team meeting or text thread. Half the sentences might never leave your lips. Here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Become an archaeologist of your own speech. In one conversation today, consciously remove 3 things: a redundant adjective, an unsupported opinion, or an interruption waiting to happen. Notice the space that creates. Like pruning a tree, cutting away the excess lets the strongest branches thrive. Epictetus offered perhaps the sharpest tool for this practice. If you can't improve on silence, stay silent. That doesn't mean withholding ideas, it means respecting them enough to deliver only your best, because in a world drowning in noise, those who speak sparingly speak loudest. Imagine waking up tomorrow with only the clothes on your back and enough coins for a single meal. Most would panic at the thought. Yet the Stoics saw this scenario as the ultimate training ground. Musonius Rufus, the philosopher who taught Epictetus, insisted his students periodically embrace poverty voluntarily, not as punishment but as immunization against life's unpredictability. How can one become temperate, he asked, when surrounded by excess? His answer: strip away comforts to discover the unshakable foundation beneath them. There's a stark contrast between this ancient wisdom and today's consumer culture, where self-worth often ties to the latest gadget or wardrobe refresh. The Stoics didn't reject material goods, they rejected dependence on them. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, would intentionally wear shabby clothes and sleep on hard floors. Why? To prove to himself, nothing here owns me. Here's a modern test. Choose one luxury you rely on daily. Your morning latte, ride shares instead of walking, perhaps that extra streaming subscription. Now let it go for just 72 hours, not to suffer, but to observe what surfaces in its absence. Does frustration reveal an emotional crutch? Does creativity spike when convenience vanishes? Musonius called this the wealth of sufficiency, recognizing how little you truly need to thrive. Tonight, as you scroll past ads convincing you that happiness lives in the next purchase, pause. Ask yourself, what if the key to freedom isn't acquiring more, but mastering the art of needing less? The luxury you temporarily surrender today might just uncover a resilience no paycheck could ever buy. Marcus Aurelius left us a startling reminder in his private journals. What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. In a world obsessed with personal optimization and self-help, this ancient insight cuts against the grain. The Stoics saw willpower not just as a tool for individual mastery, but as fuel for collective flourishing. While modern life pushes us toward isolated achievement, bigger salaries, personal brands, private gains, the Stoics measured strength by how much we lift others alongside ourselves. Consider the architect designing a public square. She could focus solely on the prestige of her name carved in stone, or pour that same energy into creating shade for tired parents, smooth paths for wheelchairs, spaces where community blossoms. The discipline of action asks, does your effort serve only you or something larger? Epictetus trained his students to ask this daily. How have I helped today? How have I hindered, not as moral homework, but as practical psychology, because service is the unexpected whetstone that sharpens willpower. Here's the modern twist. Helping others isn't just noble, it's neurologically strategic. Studies show altruistic acts activate the same brain regions as personal achievement, but with one key difference: they're resistant to burnout. That rush you feel after holding the door for someone laden with packages. It's not coincidence, it's chemistry. The Stoics discovered what science now confirms. We're wired to find meaning beyond ourselves. Today, try this micro-challenge. Before sunset, perform one act of service so small it almost feels insignificant, but do it with full presence. Carry a neighbor's trash bin up their driveway. Leave a genuine compliment on a coworker's unattended desk. Not for praise, but to practice a truth Marcus knew. Men exist for the sake of one another. In serving, you don't dilute your strength, you multiply it, because the will that lifts others never weakens, it roots itself deeper. Seneca called anger a brief madness, a fiery outburst that burns the vessel containing it before scorching anyone else. Picture this: you're cut off in traffic, fists clenching the wheel, heat rising in your chest. In that moment, the Stoic philosopher would have asked a jarring question: does your rage move the other car? Or just poison your own mind? His treatise on anger wasn't just ancient advice. It was a mirror held up to humanity's self-sabotage. No plague has cost the human race more, he wrote. Not war, not famine, the unchecked fury we mistake for strength. Modern neuroscience confirms what Seneca observed. Anger floods the brain with cortisol, narrowing focus to threats while clouding judgment. That honking driver who ruined your morning, they've already forgotten the incident, but your body keeps the score, heart rate elevated long after the moment passed. The Stoic solution wasn't suppression, but cold-eyed analysis. Anger, Seneca noted, always overestimates its own duration. What feels like an eternity of indignation often burns out in minutes if you don't feed it. Here's the experiment. Next time anger flares, whether over a misplaced key or a workplace slight, start a mental stopwatch. Observe the exact moment the heat peaks, then track how swiftly it fades when met with silence instead of fuel. Like a fire deprived of oxygen, its power crumbles. Seneca's antidote was perspective. Does this matter in the grand mosaic of my life? Most often, the answer is no. Road rage makes the pattern obvious, but the principle applies everywhere. The colleague taking credit for your idea, the relative pushing your buttons, anger grants them free rent in your mind. Tonight, try Seneca's journaling exercise. Recount one anger episode from your day, then rewrite it as if you'd responded with detached curiosity instead of fury. Notice how differently the story ends, because as the philosopher warned, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. Pause. Don't pour gasoline on a spark that's already dying. Picture this: your phone buzzes with a text that instantly makes your blood boil. Maybe it's a passive-aggressive comment from a coworker or a friend canceling plans last minute. Your fingers fly to type out a reaction, but here's where the Stoics would hit an invisible pause button. Epictetus laid it out plainly. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. That tiny gap, it's the difference between a knee-jerk reaction you'll regret and a response you can stand by. Modern life has turned that space into a vanishing act. Social media thrives on rapid-fire comments, emails demand instant replies, and algorithms reward outrage. But reactivity isn't efficiency, it's surrender. The Stoic pause isn't about hesitation, it's about reclaiming sovereignty over your actions. Imagine two versions of yourself, one who fires off a snarky reply and stews all day, and another who takes 5 breaths, asks, "Will this matter in a week?" and crafts a reply that leaves dignity intact. Here's the twist: that pause isn't empty. It's where wisdom gets a seat at the table. Ancient Stoics trained for this like athletes, visualizing provocations beforehand so they wouldn't be hijacked by emotions in the moment. Scipio Africanus, the Roman general who defeated Hannibal, would deliberately walk away from insults, returning only after considering whether a response served his purpose. His restraint wasn't weakness, it was tactical. Tonight, try this experiment. Set your phone to grayscale mode for 1 hour. It reduces the brain's urge for instant engagement. Then, the next time a message triggers annoyance, literally count to 5 before replying. Feel how different those seconds make your words, because mastery isn't about never feeling anger, it's about never letting anger dictate your hands. As Seneca noted, the best remedy for anger is to wait, not to avoid the conversation, but to enter it on your terms. The ancient Stoics had a surprisingly practical term for things society obsesses over but don't truly impact our character: preferred indifference. Fame, wealth, trendy gadgets, they might be nice to have, but they're morally neutral. Marcus Aurelius captured this with brutal clarity. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He wasn't being morbid, he was highlighting how little most of our daily distractions actually matter. Take celebrity gossip, endless cycles of who wore what, who feuded with whom. Scroll through those headlines for an hour, and what do you gain? Temporary entertainment, perhaps, but at the cost of attention you could have invested in mastering a skill, deepening a relationship, or simply recharging your mind. The Stoics weren't saying we should live like hermits. They were reminding us that every trivial indulgence is a trade-off. That tabloid story might be amusing, but it's borrowing focus from something that could actually enrich your life. Here's the litmus test. Imagine looking back on today a year from now. Will remembering that viral tweet or reality TV drama spark pride or regret? Probably neither, because trivia fades like smoke. Marcus wrote, "Ask yourself, is this essential?" before engaging with anything, not to deprive yourself of joy, but to ensure your time aligns with your values. So here's your challenge. Pick one mainstream distraction that's been nibbling at your attention lately. Maybe it's compulsively checking sports scores, refreshing fashion trends, or diving into political bickering online. For the next 3 days, treat it like background noise in a cafe. Notice it exists, but don't lean in. Observe what fills the space left behind. You might just find that ignoring the insignificant doesn't shrink your world. It clears the stage for what actually deserves the spotlight. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, stood before his students in Athens' painted porch and made a claim that still startles modern ears. Happiness is a good flow of life, and this comes solely through virtue, nothing else. No mention of promotions, followers, or bank balances. Just one radical idea: that true success isn't measured by external trophies, but by the integrity of your choices. Fast forward to today, where algorithms define worth by likes and life milestones get reduced to Instagram checklists. The gap between ancient wisdom and modern metrics has never been wider. We've all felt the whiplash of chasing society's benchmarks. That moment when you land the dream job but feel hollow inside, or hit a follower goal only to wonder, is this it? The Stoics called this misalignment adiaphora, preferred indifference that masquerade as necessities. Zeno's insight cuts deeper. If your self-worth fluctuates with outside validation, you've handed your happiness to forces beyond your control. Here's the litmus test they used. Picture losing everything society applauds: your title, your possessions, your reputation. Strip it all away, what remains? That kernel of unshakable character, the courage you showed in hard conversations, the fairness you upheld when no one was watching, that's the Stoic summum bonum. The highest good. Now apply this to a recent failure, maybe a rejected proposal or a missed opportunity. Instead of tallying the external loss, assess it through virtue's lens. Did you prepare diligently? Act with honesty, learn something substantive. If so, by Stoic standards, you didn't fail, you grew. Marcus Aurelius journaled about this daily, reminding himself, the cucumber is bitter. Then throw it out. There are brambles in the path, then go around. That's all you need to know. Not every outcome needs mourning, only the compromises of principle do. Tonight, grab a pen and reframe one setback. Under external result, jot what went wrong. Then under virtue gained, list how it strengthened your patience, humility, or resolve. That shift in perspective doesn't just soften blows, it reveals that every stumble can polish your core if you know where to look. Because as Zeno taught, the only true loss isn't missing targets, it's missing the chance to become more yourself in the process. Seneca boarded ships bound for foreign shores, not just to see new lands, but to confront himself, while most Roman nobles traveled for luxury. To sample exotic foods or collect souvenirs, the Stoic philosopher treated each journey as a mobile classroom. Wherever I go, he wrote, I carry my own weather with me. That radical idea turns modern travel on its head. Today we chase Instagrammable sunsets and all-inclusive resorts, yet return more drained than when we left. The difference: we've forgotten how to voyage like Stoics. Consider the average vacation checklist: perfect photos, seamless comfort, zero inconveniences. Now contrast that with Seneca's approach. He saw delayed carriages as chances to practice patience, stormy seas as tests of resilience, unfamiliar customs as mirrors revealing his own biases. Where we seek escape, he sought engagement. Packing lists mattered less than mental preparation. If you wish to be taken anywhere, let your virtue go first so you may be welcomed by its echo. This isn't about abandoning leisure, it's about reclaiming travel's deeper purpose. Every trip contains two parallel journeys, the external one across geography and the internal one through your character. The family road trip with screaming kids, a masterclass in managing irritation. The delayed flight stripping away your plans, an invitation to adaptability. Even your daily commute holds this potential. That gridlocked traffic becomes a meditation on control when you ask, what can this teach me about acceptance? Here's the challenge. Next time you're en route, whether crossing time zones or just walking to the grocery store, identify one Stoic test hidden in plain sight. Maybe it's navigating a foreign subway system without frustration, or finding curiosity instead of judgment when customs differ from yours. Like Seneca, carry a notebook not just for sights but for self-observations. What triggered me today? How did I handle the unexpected? Because the ultimate destination was never Rome or Egypt or a tropical beach. It's the unshakable home we build within ourselves. As Seneca reminded Lucilius, you'll find no new landscapes until you carry new eyes. The baggage that matters isn't in your suitcase, it's the mindset you unpack wherever you roam. Every workplace has that one project, the one where deadlines are slipping, tensions are rising, and every email thread feels like walking through a minefield. Here's where Stoicism hands us a razor-sharp tool for cutting through the chaos: the Stoic fork. No, it's not cutlery, it's Epictetus' two-pronged approach to any challenge. He put it bluntly: there are two options, either accept things as they are or take action to change them. Anything else is madness. Picture this: your manager suddenly shifts project goals mid-sprint. Team morale tanks and complaints flood the group chat. The Stoic fork slices through the noise. Prong 1, acceptance. If the decision is final and beyond your influence, acknowledge reality without resistance. Prong 2, action. If there's room to negotiate, draft a data-backed counter-proposal. The madness: wasting energy on rage-filled venting that changes nothing but your blood pressure. Epictetus' framework exposes a truth we often ignore. Suffering multiplies when we hover in the middle, neither fully accepting nor effectively acting. That colleague who keeps rewriting your slides without input, you can either adjust your collaboration approach, action, or release resentment over their perfectionism, acceptance. But agonizing over their behavior while doing neither, that's the drain Stoics warn against. Here's your litmus test for any frustration weighing you down. Grab a sticky note and draw a line down the center. On the left, right, can I change this? On the right, must I accept this? No gray areas, just clear, decisive categorization. The fork doesn't promise easy solutions, but it does eliminate wasted effort. Because willpower isn't about enduring every battle. It's about choosing the ones that truly matter, then engaging with unwavering clarity. So tonight, replay one stressor from your day through the Stoic fork's tines. Did it demand acceptance or action? More importantly, did you choose a prong or linger in the exhausting middle? The choice is always yours. Just remember, even a fork can't lift food to your mouth until you decide which prong to use. Seneca noticed something troubling about human nature. We tend to admire the wrong things. He wrote, "Choose a guide whose way of life and words praise one another." The Stoics didn't just follow role models blindly, they studied them like blueprints for building character. While today's world obsesses over influencers with perfect aesthetics and curated lives, ancient wisdom points to a different standard, one where actions and principles align in perfect harmony. Imagine scrolling through social media, bombarded by images of luxury cars, exotic vacations, and flawless bodies. Now picture Epictetus walking through Athens, drawn not to the richest merchants, but to those who exemplified resilience and reasoned people who could lose everything yet remain unbroken. The Stoics called these rare individuals sages, not because they were flawless, but because their lives served as compasses pointing toward virtue rather than vanity. Here's the challenge modern culture presents. We often confuse visibility with worth. A viral post doesn't mean wisdom. Fame doesn't equate to fortitude. Seneca warned, "Show me someone who isn't a slave. One is enslaved to lust, another to greed, another to ambition." True role models aren't those who merely accumulate followers, but those who master themselves. Think carefully whose habits infiltrate your mind daily. Are you absorbing the calm of Marcus Aurelius or the anxiety of doom-scrolling headlines, the patience of Epictetus or the impulsiveness of trending hot takes? This week, conduct an audit of your influences. For every hour spent consuming content from modern personalities, match it with study of a Stoic figure. Notice how each shapes your thoughts, decisions, and ultimately your character. The most powerful mentorship doesn't require a follow button. It lives in the timeless pages of those who proved their philosophy not with words alone, but with lives lived in unshakable alignment. Who will you choose as your guide, the voices amplifying chaos or those offering anchors in the storm? Marcus Aurelius left us a simple yet profound truth in his Meditations. The present moment is all you possess. Meanwhile, our phones buzz with notifications, our screens split between multiple tabs, and our attention fractures into a dozen directions. The contrast couldn't be starker. Ancient wisdom urging singular focus while modern life rewards constant division. But here's what the Stoics understood. Multitasking doesn't make us more productive, it makes us less present. Every time we split our attention, we're not just diluting our efficiency, we're surrendering the only moment we ever truly control. Think about your last meal. Did you taste each bite, or was it shoveled down while scrolling through emails? That's the difference between existing in time and actually inhabiting it. The Stoics called this prosoph the discipline of attention, not some mystical meditation practice, but the radical act of doing one thing at a time with your whole mind. When Marcus wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," He wasn't offering spa-day advice. He was issuing a tactical command for mental clarity. Try this today. Pick one routine activity, making coffee, walking the dog, even washing dishes, and perform it as if it's the most important task in the world. Notice the warmth of the mug in your hands, the rhythm of your breath as you stroll, the way sunlight plays on soap bubbles. At first, your mind will rebel, itching to check your phone or plan tomorrow's meeting. That's precisely the point. Each time you gently return your focus, you're strengthening a muscle modern life has atrophied the ability to be fully where you are. Because presence isn't passive, it's the ultimate act of reclaiming your willpower from the chaos of distraction. As Seneca observed, life is long if you know how to use it. Not by cramming more in, but by savoring what's already here. The next notification can wait. This moment won't. Epictetus stood in his humble classroom overlooking the bustling streets of Nicopolis, teaching his students a radical perspective. Life's difficulties are not obstacles, but examinations. He wasn't speaking metaphorically. The Stoics truly saw every setback as a test of their principles in action. Fast forward to today, where a sudden job rejection email can feel like the universe punishing you. But what if that rejection isn't a verdict, it's a pop quiz on resilience? Modern career culture conditions us to view layoffs or missed promotions as personal failures. The Stoic flips the script. These aren't catastrophes, but progress checks. Imagine your skills and mindset as muscles without resistance. How would they grow? That project you poured your heart into only for leadership to cancel it. It wasn't wasted effort. It was spot testing your ability to detach self-worth from outcomes. Epictetus' classroom had no diplomas, just daily opportunities to practice what he preached. When a student complained about unfair treatment, he didn't offer sympathy. He assigned mental homework. What does this reveal about what you still need to master? That's the litmus test we've forgotten. Adversity doesn't measure your worth, it measures your current training level. Right now, something in your life is playing that same role. Maybe it's a financial strain testing your creativity, or a strained relationship challenging your patience. Grab a notebook and reframe it through Epictetus' lens. At the top of the page, write "current life exam." Then detail the subject being tested, not the surface problem, but the underlying skill it's probing. Underneath, jot 3 study strategies to strengthen that muscle, because here's the secret Stoics knew: you don't get the test until you're ready to learn from it. That frustrating situation isn't happening to you, it's happening for your growth. And the only failing grade, refusing to open the exam booklet. Ever notice how white-knuckling the steering wheel in gridlock doesn't clear the road ahead? Marcus Aurelius faced far greater standstills, political betrayals, plagues, wars, yet wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Recognize this and you will find strength." That's the paradox of control in action. The tighter we grip external circumstances, the more powerless we feel. But the moment we shift focus inward to our interpretations and responses, we reclaim agency even in chaos. Picture 2 drivers stuck in the same traffic jam. One curses every red light, slams the dashboard, arrives frazzled. The other breathes through the delay, calls a friend they've been meaning to catch up with, turns dead time into connection. Same external event, wildly different experiences. The Stoics weren't suggesting we ignore reality. They were urging us to differentiate between what happens to us and what happens within us. Marcus called this inner dominion, the unshakable territory no outside force can invade unless we grant entry. A missed train becomes wasted minutes or unexpected reading time. A critical comment stings or sharpens self-awareness. The variable isn't the event, it's the space between stimulus and where we place our focus. So where's your energy currently trapped? Are you exhausting yourself resenting a family member's stubborn habits? or could you adjust your expectations to match reality? Wrestling with a client's indecision instead of refining your pitch. The traffic jam won't vanish because you're frustrated, but your suffering will the moment you stop demanding the road bend to your will. This isn't surrender, it's strategic reallocation. Every ounce of energy spent raging against unchangeable facts is stolen from where you could be making real progress. Tonight, try this. Jot down one situation where you've been fighting reality. Then rewrite the script not by pretending it's ideal, but by asking, what can I control here? Often you'll find the power wasn't missing, just misplaced. Seneca wrote letters not just to share wisdom, but to protect something far more precious, his attention. To a friend begging for his time, he responded bluntly, "If you wish to be valued, value your hours." That's the power of the Stoic no, not rejection for its own sake, but a scalpel cutting away distractions to preserve what matters. Modern life operates on the opposite principle. We say yes out of guilt, FOMO, or sheer habit until our calendars resemble overcrowded lifeboats. Meetings bleed into weekends. Side projects multiply like rabbits, and the cost, not just exhaustion, but the slow erosion of our ability to focus on what truly moves us forward. The Stoics recognized this centuries ago. Every yes to the non-essential is a no to your highest priorities. Think of your willpower as a finite currency. Each unnecessary commitment is like paying for a subscription you never use, small drains that collectively bankrupt your potential. Seneca guarded his time like a fortress under siege. No person hands out their money to passers-by, yet we distribute our lives to any bystander who asks. The difference between busyness and impact often comes down to one skill: the courage to decline gracefully. Here's where most stumble. We confuse politeness with perpetual availability. But consider this: when you say yes to that extra committee role out of obligation, you're subtly telling your own goals, you can wait. The Stoic no isn't selfish, it's strategic. It's the recognition that you cannot pour from an empty cup, and every not now to others can be a yes to your growth. This week, test the waters of refusal. Start small but deliberate. Decline one non-essential request. Maybe it's that happy hour you'd attend out of habit, or the low-priority task someone could handle themselves. Deliver it with kindness but firmness. I can't commit to that right now. Observe what happens. The world won't crumble, but something transformative might occur within you. Space will open, energy will return, and with practice you'll discover that the right no can be as liberating as the wisest yes. Seneca posed a haunting question from his deathbed: is this the life I meant? Not in his youth, not mid-career, but when time had all but run out. That final vantage point strips away every trivial concern, leaving only what truly mattered. The Stoics called this sub specie eternitatis, seeing life under the aspect of eternity. Today, we're drowning in urgent distractions, endless notifications, manufactured crises, petty dramas, all while the hourglass quietly empties. Imagine your final moments, not morbidly but with clarity. That heated argument over a parking spot, the hours lost scrolling through strangers' vacation photos, the anxiety over a slight from someone you'll barely remember. How much of today's stress will even flicker in that final reckoning? Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, writing, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics knew. We overestimate short-term frustrations and undervalue long-term meaning. That work email chain sparking outrage today, it'll dissolve into irrelevance long before your last breath. But the book you never wrote, the kindness you withheld, the moments you sacrificed to busyness, those echo. Here's the pivot. Pick one current worry, a criticism, a financial squeeze, a social snub, and place it on an imaginary deathbed scale. Does it weigh anything? If not, why let it consume minutes you'll never get back? Seneca measured life not in breaths but in moments that took his breath away, not from shock but depth. "It's not that we have too little time," he wrote, "but that we waste so much. Tonight, try this exercise. List 3 things that felt vital today. Then ask, would future me on that final day nod with approval or shake their head at misplaced focus?" The answer isn't a critique, it's a compass, because when every choice passes the deathbed test, you stop filling life with noise and start composing a legacy. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who shaped Epictetus' thinking, didn't just train minds, he trained stomachs. While other philosophers debated abstract ideas over lavish feasts, he insisted his students eat simple barley bread and drink water, not as punishment but as mental conditioning. His reasoning was razor sharp. How can we claim self-mastery if we're slaves to our next gourmet craving? Fast forward to today, where endless food delivery apps turn every whim into a click away, and mindless scrolling pairs with mindless snacking. The Stoics didn't see food as fuel versus pleasure. They saw every bite as a micro-test of discipline. Think about your last meal. Did you eat with intention, or was it sandwiched between emails and TikTok clips? Modern eating has become almost accidental, a side activity to entertainment or work. Contrast that with Musonius' practice of sitting quietly with plain food, focusing solely on nourishment. This wasn't austerity for its own sake, it was selective resistance training. Just as lifting weights stresses muscles to strengthen them, choosing simplicity over stimulation builds resilience. Here's where most diet culture misses the mark. It frames restriction as deprivation. Stoicism reframes it as empowerment. When Musonius ate his humble meals, he wasn't denying pleasure. He was proving to himself repeatedly that his happiness wasn't tied to external flavors. That's the muscle memory we've lost, the ability to enjoy food without being ruled by it. Your challenge is deceptively simple but transformative. Pick one meal this week, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and strip it down to its essentials. No distractions, no lavish sauces, no multitasking. Just you and the nourishment. Notice the textures, the act of chewing, the signals your body sends when it's had enough. Like a Stoic in training, you're not just eating, you're practicing the art of sufficiency. Because mastery over your plate isn't about what you deny yourself, it's about reclaiming the freedom to choose. Marcus Aurelius made a striking observation as he prepared for bed each night. You don't even have the privilege of owning your own sleep. Life can snatch even that from you. In those quiet hours before rest, he recognized something profound, that sleep isn't just downtime between productivity sprints, but sacred ground for renewal. Compare that to our modern exhaustion cycles, doom scrolling until our eyelids droop, treating sleep like an inconvenience rather than the foundation of willpower. The Stoics didn't just stumble into bed, they practiced intentional rest, turning even sleep into an act of discipline. Think about your own pre-sleep ritual. Does it resemble a frantic last-minute email check or a deliberate transition from doing to being? The blue glow of screens mimics daylight, tricking our brains into alertness while stealing the deep rest we desperately need. Seneca warned against this. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it's right to be stingy. Every hour of restless tossing isn't just lost sleep, it's borrowed energy from tomorrow's resilience. Here's how to reclaim the Stoic sleep advantage. Instead of collapsing into bed, carve out 10 minutes for what Marcus called the evening review. Light a candle or dim your screen and ask 2 questions. What lesson did today teach me? How can I live better tomorrow? No guilt, no overthinking, just honest reflection. This isn't about tallying failures, it's about aligning rest with growth. Tonight, try shifting just one habit, perhaps swapping late night scrolling for a page of philosophy, or silencing notifications an hour earlier. Observe how slowing the mind before sleep isn't passive, it's active preparation for a stronger tomorrow. Because the Stoics knew this secret long before sleep science confirmed it, true mastery doesn't grind until burnout, it rests with purpose, so every waking moment carries the quiet energy of renewal. Picture being handed an unexpected resignation letter, not yours, but your boss's, leaving the company in chaos. Your first instinct might be panic, but the Stoics would see this differently, not as a crisis, but as fate extending its hand for you to shake. Cleans, the philosopher who literally worked as a water carrier while studying under Zeno, put it plainly, "Guide me, Zeus, where you will, I follow without flinching." That's the essence of the Stoic handshake, not resisting life's plot twists, but gripping them with purpose. Career upheavals make this tangible. Maybe you're passed over for a promotion, or your industry shifts overnight due to new tech. The modern reflex is to fight the tide. Updating resumes in frustration, scrambling to regain lost ground. But what if you paused and asked, how is this redirection preparing me for something I can't yet see? Like a sailor adjusting sails to the wind rather than cursing it, embracing fate's grip transforms you from a victim of change to its collaborator. Consider how pottery relies on resistance. A spinning wheel throws clay off center, but the potter's hands don't fight the motion, they guide it, using that very instability to shape something stronger. Your career, your relationships, even your daily plans operate the same way. The layoff that forces freelancing might reveal entrepreneurial talents. The transfer to a new city could introduce mentors you'd never have met otherwise. Here's the challenge: identify one unavoidable circumstance in your life right now. A health diagnosis, a financial constraint, a family obligation. Instead of straining against it, experiment with leaning in. Ask, what skill could this difficulty teach me? What door might it open if I stopped pushing back? Like Cleans hauling water while composing philosophy, sometimes the very thing that seems like an obstacle is the current carrying you forward. The tighter you grip fate's hand, the more clearly you feel its guidance. Epictetus once told his students, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Imagine standing before a mirror that doesn't reflect your face but your choices. The words left unspoken, the promises half kept, the small compromises made when no one was watching. The Stoics called this prosoph, the practice of relentless self-accountability. While today's culture obsesses over who's to blame, they turn the spotlight inward, asking not who wronged me, but where did I falter? We live in an age of externalized responsibility, cancel culture, victim mentality, endless finger-pointing. Social media feeds our worst impulses, offering instant villains for every frustration. But here's the uncomfortable truth the Stoics knew: growth begins where excuses end. Epictetus put it bluntly: if someone handed your body to a passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand your mind over to anyone who insults you, allowing your happiness to depend on their words. There's a transformative power in pausing before reacting. That coworker taking credit for your idea, the Stoic mirror asks, have I ever done the same? The friend who flakes on plans, it prompts, when did I last break a promise to myself? This isn't about self-flagellation, it's about liberation through brutal honesty. Tonight, try this exercise. List 3 recent frustrations where you blamed others. Now rewrite each as if you held 10% responsibility. Maybe you enabled that toxic dynamic by not setting boundaries sooner. Perhaps your rushed instructions contributed to the misunderstanding. Like a sculptor chiseling away excess marble, each admission reveals the stronger form beneath. The challenge isn't to shoulder all blame, but to reclaim all agency. As Epictetus noted, progress isn't measured by how much you've changed others, but by how much you've changed yourself. So ask now, what's one flaw you've been dressing up as circumstance? Name it, own it, and watch how quickly the world's sharp edges soften when you stop expecting others to pad them for you. A startup founder watches 3 years of work vanish overnight as investors pull funding, or so it seems. What looks like a collapse could actually be the universe forcing a pivot. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's the Stoic pivot in action, not just weathering setbacks, but letting them redirect you towards something stronger. History's greatest comebacks often start with apparent disasters. Steve Jobs got fired from Apple only to return with the vision for Pixar and a renewed leadership style that reshaped technology. Twitter emerged from the ashes of Audio, a failed podcasting platform. What seemed like roadblocks weren't dead ends, they were course corrections in disguise. Here's where most of us get stuck: we treat failure as final. The Stoics saw it as feedback, that rejected proposal. It might be nudging you toward a more compelling idea. The job loss, an invitation to build something aligned with your strengths. Even nature works this way. Forest fires clear old growth to make room for new life. So grab a notebook and revisit one recent setback. Maybe it's a client who walked away or a project that stalled. Now reframe it as a forced pivot. What doors did this close so better ones could open? What skills did you gain in the process that prepare you for the next chapter? Marcus didn't just endure obstacles, he mined them for momentum. The difference between those derailed by failure and those propelled by it isn't luck, it's perspective. Every setback carries a hidden reset button. Your job isn't to curse the obstacle, it's to ask, what is this trying to move me toward? Because sometimes the best opportunities don't appear until life knocks you off the expected path. Seneca once fled Rome's chaos for the quiet of his countryside villa, not to escape life but to rediscover it. Writing to his friend Lucilius, he described solitude not as loneliness but as the ultimate classroom. Be a stranger to yourself sometimes, only then can you return as your own teacher. That's the heart of the Stoic Sabbath, a deliberate pause from the noise to hear wisdom whisper. Modern life treats disconnection like a glitch, endless notifications, always on work culture, the pressure to respond instantly. But constant connectivity comes at a cost. We've forgotten how to sit with our own thoughts. Think of your phone's battery. It needs charging, not just constant draining. Your mind works the same way. The Stoics didn't wait for burnout. They scheduled stillness like an essential meeting with their deepest selves. Here's how to reclaim this ancient rhythm in a hyper-connected world. Block one day this quarter. Call it your self-retreat day. No inboxes, no social feeds, no passive entertainment. Just 3 simple practices Seneca modeled. Morning reflection, reviewing principles you want to live by. Midday walking meditation, letting movement untangle mental knots. And evening journaling, asking not, what did I do? But how did I grow? The magic lies in what happens afterward. Like a camera pulled briefly out of focus to sharpen its next shot, these pauses reset your clarity. That colleague's snarky comment, now water off a duck's back, the project stressing you, suddenly solvable in 3 steps. Digital detoxes aren't about deprivation. They're liberation from mental clutter you didn't realize was fogging your vision. Start smaller if needed. Try 4 hours this weekend, phone off, notebook open. Notice how irritation fades and creativity sparks when you're no longer buffeted by others' agendas. Because as Seneca proved, sometimes the most powerful action looks like stillness. The world will still spin without your constant input, but you might just return to it spinning clearer, steadier, and far more purposeful. Epictetus looked at the grand statues lining Athens streets and asked his students a piercing question. When you're gone, will people remember the weight of your purse or the weight of your character? 2,000 years later, we've swapped marble monuments for LinkedIn accolades and Instagram followers, but the dilemma remains. The Stoics measured legacy not in trophies collected, but in virtues lived, kindness that outlasted transactions, courage that inspired long after battles ended, integrity that never bent to convenience. Think of two neighbors. One spends decades climbing corporate ladders, collecting promotions like medals, yet retires to quiet indifference. The other, the teacher who stayed late for struggling students. The stranger who returned a lost wallet intact passes away to packed pews and stories that ripple through generations. Modern metrics scream for us to chase visibility, but time whispers the truth. We're remembered not for what we gained, but for what we gave. Here's the litmus test the Stoics used. If all your possessions vanished tonight, what would remain of your essence? Not your job title, but the patience you showed mentoring a colleague. Not your follower count, but the honesty you upheld when no one was watching. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet his journal fixated on humility, self-restraint, and service qualities no palace fire could destroy. So pause and ask yourself, what's etched on your mental tombstone right now? Is it they hit quota every quarter, or they lifted others even when it cost them? This week, perform one act deliberately designed to outlive you, not for applause, but because it aligns with who you aspire to be. Teach a skill without expecting credit. Defend someone unfairly maligned. Leave an anonymous kindness, because legacy isn't built in grand gestures announced to the world. It's forged in quiet moments witnessed only by your conscience. As Epictetus reminds us, what survives isn't the echo of our wealth, but the imprint of our choices. The question isn't whether you'll be remembered, it's whether the memory will warm hearts or gather dust. Here's how the final insight unfolds, not with a dramatic breakthrough, but in the quiet accumulation of ordinary moments. Picture two paths, one where willpower is this mythical reserve you either have or don't, the other where it's simply the next right choice, however small. Modern culture sells us the lie that transformation requires grand gestures, a complete overhaul, a 30-day extreme challenge. But Marcus Aurelius, amidst war and plague, wrote, "You have only to doze for a moment, and all is lost, for the loss is in that very moment." His genius was recognizing mastery as a daily currency, spent in increments. That coffee you skip not because you're punishing yourself, but because you're practicing saying no to impulses. The deep breath you take before responding to a provocation, not suppressing emotion but selecting your reaction. These aren't minor acts, they're the bricks building an unshakable will. The Stoics didn't wait for perfect conditions to exercise discipline. They used traffic jams, irritating relatives, even hunger pangs as their gymnasium. So here's the final challenge. Don't wait for tomorrow's ideal version of yourself. Look at your next hour. One email begs for a snippy reply. The couch beckons after a long day. A frustration tempts you to spiral. Pick just one moment, not to wage war on your flaws, but to quietly align action with principle. Marcus promised, today is enough. Not a flawless day, not a heroic one, just today, met with your clearest intention. And if you stumble, the Stoics would shrug. The next choice is always yours. Mastery isn't the absence of missteps, it's the refusal to let them define what comes next. So close this video and do something startlingly simple. Make the next thing you do a conscious one. Not for a month, not for a year, just now. That's how legends and lives are built. The most powerful transformations rarely begin with fireworks. They start with the quiet click of a mindset shifting into place. All these Stoic insights share one thread. Mastery isn't built in heroic declarations, but in the humble repetition of small, intentional choices. That traffic jam testing your patience. A training ground for emotional control. The delayed flight stripping away your plans, a live drill in adaptability. Even the irritation of a coworker's habit becomes repetition. #237 in practicing detachment. Epictetus didn't mince words. If you want to be a philosopher, expect sweat and hard training, no different than an Olympic athlete. But here's what he really meant: gold medals aren't won on race day alone. They're earned in thousands of pre-dawn laps when no one's watching. Your willpower operates the same way. The cold shower you choose over comfort, the deep breath before reacting to provocation, the moment you pause to ask, is this mine to control? These are your daily reps in the mental gymnasium. We've walked through 38 angles on resilience, but their power lies in implementation, not admiration. So here's the challenge: don't try to overhaul your life tonight. Pick one insight that resonated, maybe the Stoic fork for navigating frustrations, or the nightly review to cement lessons. Practice it ruthlessly for just 3 days. Observe how a single disciplined thread can begin weaving through your decisions, because this isn't an ending, it's an invitation. The Stoic journey thrives in community. Share in the comments which principle you're putting to work immediately, and let's amplify each other's growth. Remember, the path to mastery isn't somewhere distant. It's here in your next choice. The ancients lit the torch, now it's your turn to carry it.